so that it comes up on the screen that live stream will begin shortly.
So don't sing. I won't sing. Huh? Oh, yeah, where's the guitar? Where is the guitar?
Right there.
Oh. Oh, I brought it in. I thought I brought it in here. Yeah, there it is.
Okay, we're live.
Without a costume.
We are live. Mic check.
Check, check.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Live as in we can start.
Paul Rigney is the first to say hello.
Hey, Paul.
Daniel Gang is right behind him.
Dan. Hi. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to turn on the camera.
So, if any guy goes on who's a vet from one of our classes, would you please make sure I'm aware of it, so I can say hello to him. Have you got enough cord to get everywhere you need to get? Are you not going to wear your apparatus?
I can't. You can't with wires dangling.
We're on. Go ahead.
Hi, folks. Welcome. This is our 10th
Oh,
live YouTube workshop. What was that noise?
let's not go live.
It's too late. Why? What's up?
Your battery's low.
Can I shut the video?
Yes.
We're going to have a false start. Are we having a false start?
Yeah, we are.
We're having a false start. Super, Dave.
You can replace it.
Soup. Hope your bags are packed, brother. Is he flying into Fredericton or St. John? Loren's flying in that day too, you know.
Ryder says, just a quick thanks to Rob. My dovetail skills started by trying to perfect Rob's method. Ryder,
Wait, say that again?
Ryder Namick says, just a quick thanks to Rob. My dovetail skills started by trying to perfect Rob's method. So he started with your method, obviously.
Oh, good. Always nice to hear that. Are we good?
And A.V. Pinsky, hi from Israel. It's 3 a.m., but I got up just for this.
Well, we'll try to make it worth it. Are we live?
Okay.
Is your camera back on, Jay?
Yep.
Cameras on? We can go?
Yep, we're good.
Sorry. Hi, folks. Welcome. This is our 10th live YouTube workshop. And it is officially one of our big fundraisers for the Purple Heart Project. So I'm going to start by telling you about that, tell you how you can contribute, how you can participate. I don't want to say contribute. We started this program 3.5 years ago, which would have been officially in November of 2016, but it actually had its roots back in March of 2016 when I met Jesse Paratus, who was a combat wounded Marine who told me that hand tool woodworking was the only time he found any peace from the physical and the mental pain he suffers from on a daily basis. So we took it upon ourselves to do something about that. So in November of 2016, we had our first class where we brought in half the class, being 6 were civilians that paid a regular monthly fee, and the other half of the class, which actually turned out to be 7, were combat wounded veterans that came in as our guests. We covered airfare, hotel, meals, and we sent each guy home with, I think back then, it was about $2,500 worth of tools. And we're going to take it back up to there too. So we just finished our 11th class. And I don't have a picture of them. Sorry, they're out in the wall in the other room. But fantastic bunch. Every time it is fantastic. We have class number 12 and 13 occurring October 7th and October 14th. Now, in 2020, we are going to start doing one a month from May through October. We're going to increase the class from 5 days a week to 6. We're going to add a project, and we're going to host 36 combat wounded veterans. which is expensive, but it doesn't matter. It will be done regardless. But if you would like to participate, if you would like to say, you know what, I owe these guys, because that's why I do it, here's some of the things that you can do. And I thought about this the other day. I said, you know, we had almost 500 people on the last workshop we did. If everybody gave $10, if you can find $10 in value in what I'm going to teach you in the next hour, submit it. Submit it in the name of helping these combat wounded veterans. And they'll thank you. Pardon?
On the website now.
Yes, thank you.
I'll post the link.
Don't contribute through YouTube, please. They take way too much, over 30%. So we have on our own website, RobCosman.com, we have a donation page under the Purple Heart Project
I'm going to post the link
banner.
right now.
Frick's going to put the link on there. And the only thing we lose on that is the transaction fee, which might be 2%. We don't take any kind of administrative fee. All that money goes directly to either buying tools, paying for hotels, buying airplane tickets, or buying food. There are a few wages that are paid. We pay Jake to be there, pay Super Dave to be there. We cover Colonel Luther's air flight, but he does all this volunteers, as do I. So you can donate. You can buy a t-shirt. It's our Purple Heart t-shirt. Cool logo on the front. And of course, wood is good on the back. And wear it proudly, promote our cause. As numerous times I've mentioned, our biggest task is finding combat wounded veterans that need our help. They tend to isolate themselves. In fact, the best way that we find them is through personal contact, by us telling our story, or you telling the story, and sooner or later you find someone who has a relative, cousin, brother, nephew, daughter, niece, and they go on our website, register. It's really easy. Well, I shouldn't say it's easy, pardon me. It's very difficult, actually, because they have to write their experience down on a half a page and submit it to us. And like talking to the therapist, where they're not going to hold back, nor are they going to exaggerate, they provide us those details so that we sit down and try to make this gut-wrenching decision on who to take and who we have to say no to. At least the better we're informed we are, the better we can make the proper decision. So, I want to show you something. Paul Rigney. I've known Paul now for quite some time because he's a luthier in Knoxville, Tennessee, and he also works part-time at the Knoxville Woodcraft store, which is run by Everett, and George is the manager, both of whom are huge supporters. And I have to say this because Everett came to me very early when we started doing this. I needed help purchasing the tools for the guys. And I went to Everett, and he very generously donated, and came to me not long after and said, Rob, every time you do this, I'll take care of one vet. So kudos to them. And George came up and took our class this last time. We had a blast. So back to Paul. Paul organized a guild several years ago called the East Tennessee Luthiers Guild. And their first project was to build a guitar. And I wish I had, I do have, they're in here. I'll read you about it. And this was a team effort. They all worked on it. Some of the parts were donated. But there's the guitar. And somewhere in here I have, I'll just read this to you quickly. Because they chose the Purple Heart Project to be the recipient of this guitar that we could then auction off. So it was the East Tennessee Luthiers Guild. The guitar is the first project. A little bit about the guitar. Now, if you're into guitars, you'll understand this. If you're like me, it's a bunch of numbers. But it does sound really good. I could build one, but I couldn't play one to save my life, or his. A little bit about the guitar. It's an HD 28V style guitar with construction based upon a 1939 Martin D28. The back and sides are East Indian rosewood, which is a beautiful wood, by the way. I should show you this while I'm saying it. So there's the East Indian rosewood. The top is Sitka spruce. The bracing is forward shifted and was carved by John Arnold. The neck is an HD 28 V-neck constructed of mahogany. So you can see the mahogany on the back side. The fingerboard is ebony with traditional Martin-style position markers. All the parts on the guitar were donated by members of the guild, with the exception of the neck, which was donated by Martin Guitar. The finish is a vintage correct, thin-skin nitrocellulose lacquer sprayed by one of the members. A close inspection will reveal that the guitar is not perfect. There are a few flaws, but this was a learning project and that was to be expected. We all felt that the flaws contributed to the wonderful sound the guitar makes. The guitar case and case candy were provided by Open Chord Music in Knoxville, Tennessee, so a big shout out to Open Chord. The current high bid is $2,000. We really don't have a time limit on, although we probably should in order to make it a legitimate auction. But if you would like to donate, bear in mind it costs us, we said $3,000. It used to be $3,500. It's probably going to be closer to $3,500 again because this is per guy that we bring in, per vet. I want to start giving them more tools. So let's say 3,500 is the magic number to take care of one vet. We've got 36 to do, and I only have one guitar. But I would like to get, it would be really nice to be able to get enough from this guitar to take care of one vet. So if you're interested, and I have a good friend and musician, Manoli Kumbayas, who was here and did a short YouTube clip with us that you can see. I'll get Frick to put a link into that. And he'll come back maybe on the next one. I was trying to get him to come in each time, but I didn't give him enough lead time. And he will come in and demonstrate it. Anyway, if you want to donate, if you want to bid, just hit me directly, RobCosman.com, and we'll keep you posted. Okay, anything else about that? T-shirts are covered. Every time someone orders a T-shirt or makes a pledge, we will give you a shout out. So I want to just take you over here real quick and show you this because I'm having a blast doing it. If you're not a member of our online workshop, our current project is a standing desk. Frick, where's your glasses?
I forgot them.
Are you kidding me? I thought you got Megan to get them.
No, I didn't call Megan. I thought Jake was going to call Megan.
Well, we have an offer, a $250 donation if Frick will wear his special DJ glasses.
DJ glasses.
Could you please text someone at my house and get them down here, please? I hate to throw that away. So anyway, what I was pointing to Frick was he's working at the prototype. So this was the original desk. This is a prototype, meaning it was put together with inexpensive materials. It was screwed together, and that allowed us to adjust everything so that we got the right height, the right width, the whole bit. Now we're working on the real thing. So it's out of cherry. The accent wood is out of holly. I must mention that the holly for the drawer sides on the big drawers just arrived this week, thanks to my good friend in Southern California, Med, which big kudos to you, Med, for getting that to us. But I want to show you this. If you look on this end, so the idea, I got to give you a little bit of background on this. If you think about a lumber yard where the standing desk design came from, he'd be up, instead of being at a chair, he'd be in and out all day long helping people get their wood and come in and writing up a bill. So on this side, you'll have your desk and your pigeonhole, and then over here will be your writing area, drawers to keep whatever. And I thought it'd be kind of neat to have a place for the pens for the customer on either side. So if you look at this apron piece, we took this piece out and then used it to make the drawer. So if you get over there on the side and you check out those little dovetails, isn't that cool? This is made out of holly and cherry, and it's got a Baltic birch bottom. Now, we have yet to do this, but we've got to go in and we've got to make a special stop up in here. This is not the top. Top will be 1-inch MDF covered in cherry veneer with solid cherry lipping all the way around. But we've got to make it so that stops right about there. But I just wanted you to see that drawer because I just think that's the coolest little thing. All right.
Kevin says hi. He was a vet in your class 2 years ago this November.
Kevin Schmira?
He didn't put his last name, but... Oh, yes, it is, yes. Yeah.
Kevin? So, did I give him the dates? He was asking me the dates for... I did? Okay, good.
And Doc Bailey's here from the April 2017.
Doc Bailey. Hello to both you gentlemen. Hope you're keeping well.
That's Kevin's flag.
And we have,
This is? Yes. He told me where that been, too. Thanks, Kevin. Keep it close. A little dusty, but the whole place is. What did you say?
we have a T-shirt from a Kevin Genslinger from Mitchell, South Dakota.
I won't repeat that name. I'll let you be the one that's responsible for
Yeah,
butchering
that
the
was-
poor guy's name.
Thanks,
Kevin.
Jake T is here from the May 19th class.
Jake.
I think he's the one that asked me to wear the glasses, isn't he?
No.
Oh.
No,
I know
but
it
we
was a
could have used
Jake.
you last night. We had 13, hour and a half ice time, 13 skaters. Anyway, so we're going to make a bench dog. Now, I'll just tell you a little bit about this real quick before we get started. I prefer a square bench dog, and I can't even tell you why. Maybe it's just because it's a traditional thing. But the problem is getting them to stay put at various heights, because sometimes you want them fairly high and sometimes you don't. And I came up with this idea where I have, because the one that I had one spot where the little tab stuck out, which means if you came above that, it was of no value, and just wasn't very happy with it. So I came up with this idea. This is a spring-loaded, and it can't come out, and it just works really well because no matter what height, there's enough friction that it'll stay put. So I'm making this for Joseph. And by the way, Joseph, your saw is in the mail, right?
One of them.
Joseph, one of your saws and your the thing that the dovetail that we made that you bought, they're both in the mail to you. And the other saw will be soon to follow. Well,
no later than July of next year.
no later. So now I'm going to make this for Joseph, but I'm going to make it, Joseph, so that you've got to fit it. I'm going to get it close, but I didn't want to make it. I like to have these things precise, meaning they. Excuse me, just 1 second, Luther's. Oh, when does it go live? Luther. Hopefully he'll catch on. Can you take care of that, Megan? What? Can you take care of responding to Luther? In case you don't know who Luther is, he's a retired colonel, U.S. Army, and he's our right-hand man in this whole Purple Heart project, and in fact, our whole business. So we're going to make this 15/16 by 13/16. And then what you'll do, Joseph, is you will simply plane one or both sides down until you get that to fit in there just perfectly. I don't like to lay slop in it, and this way as well. And I think we can probably go the same length. So if that one is 5 inches, and I can't think of any reason why we would want it any taller. That sticks out about 1 inch below, so I can easily push it up to get a hold of it. So by 5. And then Jake had the idea, why not make it out of Purple Heart? Seems to be the theme that we go with on these. Isn't that a beautiful piece of wood? So I've got to make them 2, but I'm going to concentrate on getting 1 done tonight. If we take a strip of this, I may make some for myself too. Only problem is that's too wide, so I won't worry about that. Let's go rip a piece of this off at 13/16. I want to check and see if that is square. Now when you're cut into this, it won't be that nice purple. It will eventually oxidize and come back to it, but it won't be right now. And that's not square. So I'll square it up using the table saw. Let's come over here. To turn the air on, hopefully it won't be so loud you can't hear. And I know Angie's on, so shout out to Angie tonight. What's the matter? Oh, yeah. In case you don't know who Angie is one of our team members, and she does all the packaging on the t-shirt. So when you get the t-shirt, you'll see a little gold seal with an A in it, and that's her handiwork. So 13/16. Now I'm going to go a little strong on that because that's not, actually, why don't I just go over to the jointer and square that up? Any flat surface in this shop becomes a shelf. So if you want to see what happens, there's what oxidizing does to Purple Heart, and there's what it looks like when it's freshly cut. Ugly. Now, I just changed the blade, and I don't know if this is perfectly set up, so I'm going to check it. I want that to be 13/16. 15/16. While I'm here, I'll cut a second one. Okay, now a 5-inch.
I got a quick question.
What?
This is probably actually more for Jake. On the donation page,
Loud.
on the donation page of our new website, it says all the donations are per month. They're not. Should be 2 options. They
What?
all say price per month.
I can't hear you.
It's more for Jake.
What is it?
On our new website, all the donations, they all say that they come out monthly. There isn't an option to donate one time. Got a couple people asking.
What do you know about that?
I'm on it right now. And they all say $10 a month, $25 a month, $3,500 a month.
What's your question?
Well, they want to know how they donate just once.
No, I'm saying to them. What's your question?
We'll figure that out, Norman. Thank you.
Well, text Luther, would you please? See if you can find out. Okay, so there's my 5-inch blank. Now, I'll pull this one out, show you what we need to do. We have got to cut that T shape out of here. But I hate doing that, especially when you're getting in there and there's no place for the sawdust to go. So I want to go in first and I want to make a relief cut. So I'm going to use a straight bit to make a cut right down through here. So let's go over to the router. Or I should say router table. And we'll come up. Looks on that one we came up 5/16. I don't think there's any reason to come up any higher than that. Ever since we put this vacuum attachment on, it's made it very difficult to work over here. So I'm going to center that, and for no reason other than we may as well center it as opposed to it being off to one side or the other. Now I don't want that to go all the way through, so we want to have the last inch or so clear. So if I put that right there, what I'm going to do is put a clamp and a block to prevent that from going farther than it should. Now you got to be careful when you're routing a situation like this because your bit is cutting in both directions, and you just want to avoid. You got to hold on to it. You just show it who's boss, and don't be too light-handed. I just want to hook up the vacuum cleaner to keep that clean while we're doing it. The biggest mistake you can make is not holding something like that firmly enough and it gets out of control. Well, I'm just trying to think of which way I would rather go. You see the arrows that I drew on there, that's the rotation. do. Just because this stuff is really hard, I'm going to make a relief cut on the table saw first. Can't go all the way, but I can get a fair bit of it.
So you're making a relief cut
I'm going to make
for
a
the relief cut?
for a relief cut for the relief cut. So I'll just turn the blade by hand so that I can see where it makes contact with the wood. Then I'm going to put a mark right here on my fence. I can always clean that off. So when I'm going through here, I'll stop when I get to that 1 inch mark. So I'll put a Put a 1 inch mark right here. Okay. Lock that in position. Clear that, yep. Okay, now I don't want to change the fence. I'm going to put this bit in, and that's a T bit. I think that's what they call it. Find them just about anywhere. And I'm using if you look underneath here, I'm using a DeWalt router. And it's a 1/2 inch router, so I have a reducing collar. I'll take it out real quick and show you in case you're unaware. It allows you to run 1/4 inch bits in a 1/2 inch router. And the reason you want, or I prefer a 1/2 inch router, it's usually a lot more robust. Certainly have a greater capacity. I mean, you can use smaller bits in a large router, but you can't use larger bits in a small router. And there's actually, I don't see them very often anymore, but there's some bits that have 3/8 inch shanks. I can get this out. So there's the collet, and it's got 3 cuts in it that allows the collet on the or on the router itself to squeeze that much smaller shaft and hold it firmly. Now I want that collar to go all the way down. There's a shoulder on this one, so you know it's quite far down in the router. And I've got about 5/8 of an inch of that small bit exposed above the collar. so that's good and snug. Now I want that to be up the same height. I've got to adjust the depth. Here's the piece we just cut. Lock that. You want to go slow with this because, like I said, once you get in there, there's no room for the, or there's very little room for the sawdust to be cleared. I'm pushing really hard to hold up, keep control of that. Huh? Say what? So there's my tee. Bit of a hair-raising experience because, like I said, that thing, the way that thing cuts, not my favorite task. So you've got, when I said I was holding it firmly, I was pushing down hard to have lots of friction with the table so that that wouldn't get pulled out of my hand, and then I was using that to keep it tight to the fence. I suppose I could have had something else on top, but I choose to have my fingers instead. Okay, now.
I'm gonna pull that.
Hi? Oh, turn that off? Megan, can you turn that vacuum off? Save me running over there. Oh, do you know how? Just unplug it out of the wall. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to use a piece of birch to make that tee. Actually, we'll go right over to the table saw and do that. But I'll cut it off here. I can't get to my chop saw. I'm going to cut this piece a little bit bigger than it needs to be, just like a little more material to deal with.
Quick question.
Yeah.
It's not really related to what you're doing, but what species of light and dark softwood would you suggest a beginning dovetailer use?
Well, ask that again, please.
What species of light and dark softwood would you suggest a beginning dovetailer use?
Well, the only dark softwood I can think of would be Douglas fir, but that's kind of splintery. Wouldn't be my favorite stuff to work with. Actually, if you want really nice woods to dovetail with, especially when you're learning, mahogany, Honduran mahogany, which is just so consistent. It doesn't have hard and soft grain like oaks do, so it chisels really nice. It saws really nice. It planes beautifully. And then for a softwood, pine's always been my favorite just because it requires really sharp tools and a level of tool finesse in order to do it successfully. So it's a great teaching wood. But probably poplar, if you want hardwoods, poplar and mahogany. Actually, you asked for softwoods. I can't think of can't think of a dark softwood that you could use if you want to get really good contrast. So mahogany and pine. I'll amend my original comment. Okay, so first thing we got to do is grab the right piece, get our width right here, and that is 3/8 of an inch. So what I'll do is raise that blade up a little bit, set the fence for just under 3/8 of an inch. Okay. Now, we have to have room for that to flex. So if we cut that down to 1/8 of an inch, meaning the T portion that's going to go in there, that'll give us plenty of movement. So let's see if we can't draw this. And it's going to need to be well, it can only be that. It can only be just under 3/8 of an inch long. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done these in a while. And you want it to be, you want this dimension to be very close so that it's not sloppy at all. And that is 3/16. So I'm just going to experiment with that a little bit. Now I'm going to set the fence for 1/8 of an inch. Actually, this thing is off. You know what? That was a bit of a dumb move. Because now we just can't flip it back and forth. So let's go back and redo this. Is that 3/8?
Yeah.
I'm going to use my table saw as a planer. Make anybody nauseous with that move? Okay. It looks to be just right on. I'm going to do it one more time just to make sure that it cut the full depth. Move this over. Move it over again. One more time. I'm using a rip blade because a rip blade gives you a flat bottom on your kerf. So in doing something like this, instead of having those little rabbit ears that a combination blade leaves, it's nice and flat. Okay, now we can cut that off.
Everyone is saying that you trust your saw stop a little too much.
Who said that?
Everybody. Actually, some people were hoping that we might get a live demo of it.
That's Dave's job.
Yeah.
Not Super Dave, the other Dave. Yeah, I get I'll be the first to admit the saw stop certainly has the what was I trying to say? It does make you overly confident. Only bad if you ever switch and go back to using a different table saw. Oh, we're a little snug. We're snug on the top. So what I'll do is plane that. I'm using my shooting board and my 5.5 must-haves. I didn't mean to. I thought I had that set for the right width, but obviously I didn't. And if you don't have a shooting board, I don't know how you can live without one. They're essential. Okay, now that's a little too tight. So we'll take another pass. I'm going to turn it up on its end like this because the grain favors this direction. But it's hard to balance on that little stub. Okay, so that I don't want. There's not enough force with those little springs to overcome any jamming of the wood. So this has got to be able to freely move. I'm going to take another pass off of here. All right, 2.
Tony says happy birthday.
Thank you, Connie.
No, Tony.
Oh,
from
Tony.
Australia.
Tony Martin. The Aussie. Thanks, Tony. I prefer to forget them from now on. But I guess having a birthday is better than not having one. So now what I'm going to do right here, am I doing it too soon? I'm going to cut this back. And then cut that little tab off on the top. Should be using my cross cut. And I'll take my chisel and just go in there and shape that a little bit so it'll fit that recess that the router bit made.
Can you explain in a little more detail what you're doing right now?
Yeah.
It's Joseph that's asking, actually.
Well, Joseph has the right to ask. It's his. Joseph, that router bit that I used, cut up in there, right? Because the cutter, the outside cutting lip is larger diameter than the shaft. So if you were to look down in there, you would see that, right? So I'm just making that fit.
What do you use on the shooting board, a 5.5 or a 6?
Well, you can use either. I use a 5.5, but The 6 works just as well. It's got lots of weight. It's got a bit of an advantage over the 5.5. It's got a little more length. But if you had one, you wouldn't have to run out and grab the other.
Okay, there's a bunch of t-shirts and stuff.
Okay.
So, Ryan bought a t-shirt,
Thank you, Ryan.
and Kenneth, Dove, and David,
David, Kenneth,
and Jason,
Jason.
and Branco.
What's his last name?
Yeah, that one.
Good friend. Thank you.
And
A
Michael.
little bit too long.
And
Thank you, Michael.
Richard.
Thank you, Richard. We're Clothing America. Now I just had to shorten this. I'm sure this is not necessary, but Jake, what are you bumping my head? I'm just trying to cut somewhat of a radius on that. There, that's close. Okay, so now the next move is to get our springs. So there's what I'm looking for. And the best place to get them is out of a pen,
Can you throw those out?
which makes those pen, what?
Can you throw them out?
Why?
Because they wind up sitting in a drawer and get taken out to be used.
If I knew somewhere I could buy them, I wouldn't waste a pen. But now I've already measured these, and these are 3/16 of an inch. Actually, they're a little less, but 3/16 will work. And somewhere, where'd it go? I have a 3/16 inch bit that I had in that tube that has since fallen out. And if it fell into the tool tray, good luck, I'll never find it. Not this year, I'll have to get another one.
Is there one in there?
Huh?
In your drill?
No, because I'm going to use a drill press.
No, in there.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
fish with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Pull it in there.
Okay.
Pull the whole thing in.
Okay, so now we've got a mark on both pieces, because after we drill the hole here, we have to drill a little bit of a hole here in order for that spring to lock up in here to keep this thing from falling out. So I'll put that in there and get my square. And I think I can do this just this way. What am I looking for? A pencil. Good luck. Now before we go any further, I've got to go in here and cut this down. Now I want to plane that.
Don't forget to put
Speaking of bench dogs, don't forget to put what?
the angle on the top.
Yeah. I'm just going to flush this up. How many have you got on, Frick?
220.
At $10 a piece, that would wouldn't cover the whole cost. Oh, did we figure out that problem with the donation page?
Haven't heard anything, no.
Oh, it's my fault.
He said that you wanted it to be a monthly donation, so they had to move it to the monthly, and then it deleted the option of only doing it once, so now they gotta figure out a way to do both.
Well, the monthly thing would be great. People have asked for that numerous times. They want to be able to make a small monthly donation or a large monthly donation. We're going to continue to do this until I die, so I need a. I didn't want to use a. Why do I not have a pencil? This is the part of the video where everybody always identifies with me. Huh? I had a nice sharp one. Here, I'll use this. I'll use a pen.
Guy Jones asks, couldn't this be done with a round bench dog as well?
Could it be done with a round bench dog?
With a much larger degree of difficulty.
Yeah.
Shaping.
Yeah,
everything.
I mean, you'd have to do it in the square and then put it on the lathe, and you could do that. And round, yeah, you could. That actually might be interesting. Do it in the square, and then turn it round so that you wouldn't want to do it. Try to do it when it's in the round. Okay, let's go over to the drill press. So I got to take that spring with me. I know how deep to make it. These things will compress. Huh? What'd you say? I'm going to drill these almost all the way through. And rather than try to adjust my stop over here, which takes forever to unwind, I'm just going to use the table. Jake, can you get out of my way? Now this, when you tighten it up, it raises the table a little bit, so I'll make sure I'm still clearing it. It is. So I'm right in the middle of that line. That little piece of wood was preventing me from being able to move it. Okay, now we need to drill up into here, but I've got to carry that line around. Now this doesn't have to be absolutely perfectly aligned, but we certainly want it to be a little better than just close. I'm just eyeballing it. Now we want it to be in the center, and I only want to, just need to have enough to act as an index. Actually, It's a little bit easier if I take an awl and start it with a little point that'll make it easier to line that drill bit up. That's a Dave Jeske awl. So in the center. It's because somebody has taken care of the point. Huh?
Okay, while you're walking, there's some donations. So Jason Brown, Kevin Brown, Joe Ramotovsky, Rex Bostrom, Larry Christensen, and Jake Terrell.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen.
And then
Can they hear you? You're talking to the microphone, so.
Yep.
Because you said too many for me to remember. What?
Michaela wants to know if she can get a runway walk of the T-shirt. She wants to know what it.
Michaela?
Yeah, she wants
Michaela
to.
Cosman wants what?
She needs to know what it looks like before she buys one.
No, absolutely not.
Tell her to get down here if she wants to.
By appointment only. Read the sign on the door.
Joseph said that his 12-year-old son would like to donate his $25 allowance.
Wow.
And in the spirit of that, Joseph will match anyone else's $25 donation today up to a maximum of $500.
Joseph, you're a true patriot, brother. I tip my hat to you and to your son. But I think his son's name is Sean. No? No, I had his picture in my old shop. That stuff never made it over. Oh, lives in Portland. Harper, right. Ethan.
Jacob is his name.
Jacob. Did he go by Jacob or Jake?
It says Jacob here.
So I thank you. It says Jacob?
Yeah.
Okay, put the camera on my face. Jacob, thank you. You don't know how much this means to these guys, and I certainly appreciate it, and I admire you for doing that. You have a good father. I'm setting my protractor to 3 degrees because that's how much cant there is on Joseph's bench, meaning, I should have said this to you too. So if your bench dogs were simply straight up and down, there's going to be a bit of flex when you apply pressure, and what would happen is your board would pop up out of the way. So your bench dog holes are cut at a 3-degree slant. These ones are 3 degrees this way, and the movable dog, they're 3 degrees this way. So that when they're tightened, that little bit they flex won't go beyond the perpendicular, and it'll hold your board nice and tight.
It
Now,
actually pulls it down as well.
well, when you tap it, it'll pull down. Now, let me just show you real quick. On the metal bench dogs, at least the ones that we sell that are made by Schoberg, they, just to make it a little bit easier, they mill that angle on the face of the bench dog, so you can make your holes perpendicular because the bench dog face is already accounts for that. Found that one out the hard way. So I just, now I'm going to, just because I don't suppose you don't want to see it, not that it's that big of a deal, but I have that on the back side, so what I'm going to do.
Well, there's more to it than that, right?
What?
Well, you're saying that the reason you do it is that you don't see it?
No, I'm going to cut a slope on the top. I'm going to cut a 3-degree slope on the top of this bench dog so that when it's pushed down, it lays flat with the bench, the top of the bench. Now I'm going to clean that up before we go any further. And we'll put that in. Now I'm not going to plane any of this, Joseph, because you've got to do that yourself in order to get that thing to fit perfectly. I will plane this side because that one you're not going to plane that side. You can't because the piece is going to be on there. Yeah, wrong way. Nope. Just got to go the right way. I should have felt it instead of trying to read the grain. Okay,
Are you gonna need to fit that now that you've just planed that down a bit?
maybe. Take a little bit off of it. I'm looking for my shooting board.
Kyle wants to know if we're going to be selling that gray PHP shirt that you sometimes wear. The one that I think it's embroidered.
Oh, the other ones. Well, let's take a. We're thinking about coming up with some more, more offerings in terms of colored T-shirts, and give us your suggestion, and we'll. But no, those gray ones were special ones that Luther had made up. They're embroidered, and they were just for when Super Dave and Luther and Jake and I go to the wood shows. Now, if you're wondering why I'm not sawing this, it's just because it was such a small amount. Three degrees is a lot. A little bit more. Okay. Now, we put that in. You remember how we did this. I do not want to plane off those marks. Make sure that's got to be flush so that it'll sit flat. I managed to put a pretty good angle on that. It's still protruding. Okay. Now, you got to remember how we did this. I had a thin piece of something in there, so that sits in there like that. And this one goes in there. We got to push those down, slide this over, and then pull that out. So I need a thin piece of something. What have we got? Wait a minute now, are we doing?
Yeah, you did.
No, we only need on this first one. Right?
Yeah.
Because we just have to get by that first hole, then we slide it over, put this one down in, and that one pops in. So that's all we have to do. And I might be able to do it with my spatula. Nope. Need something. Yeah. Too thick.
I got a question.
What?
Wouldn't it be easier to fit the insert if only the bottom spring was relieved into it? That way the top one wouldn't catch on the way through?
Oh, now they're going to make me think while I'm trying to do this. What was this? Say that again?
Wouldn't it be easier to fit the insert if only the bottom spring was relieved into it? That way the top
Oh,
one...
you mean just, yeah, I see what he's saying. Probably. Good idea. Too late. Where were you? Half an hour ago. So the reason the spring is fitting into that hole is so that this doesn't fall out. Truth be known, the friction would probably be enough to hold it in place anyway. But he's right. We could have eliminated that one, slid that over, and just had that, because that one would certainly lock it in well enough. But then that would have made too short of an episode. So I'm going to trim this down. Okay. Can we squeeze that all the way down?
Use your spatula.
I need something flat on the end. Screwdriver.
The screwdriver's not wide enough at the tip.
I need this, but I just want to make sure I can actually do it. Yeah, I can. So I just need something that's a little bit wider.
Oh, okay. Go into the drawer of screwdrivers.
Yeah.
Plain screwdriver. And grab the woodworking one.
Try this again. So I got to put this in there to help support it. Get over there.
Ooh, don't
What?
put that in.
What?
Don't put that in.
Why not?
Take it back up, quick. Because you have to shape the other end of it.
Shape the other end of what?
Shape the other end of that dot. Yeah.
Why?
Look at yours.
Oh, just so that when it go down in the hole?
Yeah. Show them what I
Yeah.
mean.
So you have to have a little taper on there so that when you put the bench dog in, that will, otherwise it would be sticking out and
You
you'd
have
have
it
to
tapered on both ends.
with your finger. Good catch. That's enough. More than enough.
You should do it at the other end.
Why?
Because you did it at the other end.
Yeah, but I don't need it at the other end. I don't know why I did it. Come on. move that over to the side. I can't see for one thing. Okay, flip that switch. If I can't see, they certainly couldn't.
I can't see anything anyway.
Mark said, what about using the ruler
I got
on
it.
on the sharpening station?
I got it. Yep. Now, where's the
So
other
you can pull
spring?
that out.
Not yet.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to until we get there.
Right here.
It's right here. Okay. So that one went in, that one went in. There. Slick. And they've got to sink down below the surface so that it won't bind. We've got a little bit of a flush spot right there so that when you drop it down into the hole, now it's not made for my bench dog, it's made for Joseph's. Top end is done. So Joseph, just carefully fit it until it just fits. You got to get both sides and, well, this side and then those three. Trim those until it goes down there. And then I would come in and just cut a little chamfer. I'll do it actually on this, but you may have to redo it. I like to cut a chamfer on three sides, not on the front side, because there are times when you're holding very, very thin stock and you want to have that square edge right there at the front. But just for the sake of being a little more comfortable on the hands, how are we for time?
An hour and 12 minutes.
Yeah, way past time.
Really?
You put Megan to sleep.
I put the,
Yep, I'm just-
no I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did. All right, so I just screwed up. So Joseph, when you get it, do the work on this one. Actually, you may have to cut the top down just a little bit to get rid of that chamfer that I just put on there after telling you not to do it. I was looking at this side for some reason. If anybody's local, we 2 weeks from today we're having a sharpening and hand planing workshop here Saturday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. That'll include your lunch. And you can register by emailing us, Rob@RobCosman.com, or calling us on the toll-free number. Both are posted on the site. Okay, that's it. There's your better bench dog. Needs to be cleaned up a little bit, and it'll eventually look like that when it's finished. But Joseph, I'll get the other one done, and we'll get them off to you. And it'll work perfectly. Any final questions?
Yeah, I got a couple here.
Fire.
I don't know his name. OP25 says, I keep hearing that for new woodworkers, Japanese pull saws are the best way to start, especially for things like dovetails. Is that true? They do seem to be a bit more budget friendly.
It's Japanese propaganda. Don't believe it.
He was also asking a couple other people in the chat what they recommend, so I thought you should.
Well, let me address it then. Here's how you test whether or not your saw is any good. Get a piece of relatively thick hardwood, something like maple. Now, if I had a piece right at my fingertips, it would help. Oh, come on. There, I got a piece right here. Perfect. So here's a piece of 1 inch thick maple. Now the Japanese saws are designed to cut on the pull stroke, which makes them very easy to start. The problem is they have very thin blades. Sometimes they're as thin as 12 thousandths of an inch. And I love the philosophy of being able to pull a blade of grass between your fingers, but you can't push it. However, in hard, dense western hardwoods, that little thin blade will wander and follow the path of least resistance. So you end up getting a straight line on the top and on the front, but on the back, it's no longer straight. And here's the way to test it. Make a cut the full depth that your saw will allow. Now, a Western style saw was designed with a thin blade but a heavy brass back that would hold that blade true when it's going through the wood. Now, what constitutes a good glue joint? 2 flat, smooth surfaces coming together. If those surfaces are anything less than that, you're not going to get a good glue joint. So here I have 2 flat surfaces, and then I'm going to take them, I'll flip them around like this actually, and when we put them back together, we get a very effective glue joint because we have 2 nice flat surfaces. No matter what way you do it, it's always going to end up producing a nice flat surface. Right? So try that with your Japanese saw. Japanese saws are designed primarily for Japanese wood, which is very, very light, kind of like our northern white cedar. And that wood will crush under the weight of a chisel before it will cut. So your tools have to be incredibly sharp with very low angles. That's why we use the 17-degree chisels for working in softwoods like that, for that very reason. So had there been good dovetail saws still available in North America throughout the 50s, 60s, and 70s, there wouldn't be Japanese saws over here. But dovetail saws declined so rapidly prior to Lee Nielsen coming on board in the late 90s, you couldn't get a decent saw. They all had cross-cut teeth for a ripping operation, go figure. And as a result, a Japanese saw will cut a heck of a lot better than any of those things would. And that's why they proliferated and became as popular as they are. But up against a well-made Western-style saw, you can't compete in our hardwoods. That was a long answer. Any other questions?
Yeah, Tony wants to know, he's getting rust blotch marks on his Wood River 5.5, appearing on the chip breaker blade and the face of the frog. It looks like sweat stains, but they shouldn't be there, he says.
It's not drool. Well, the simplest solution, Tony, are plain socks. Plain socks are silicone impregnated tube socks, and just keep your planes in them when they're not being used. Instead of having to wipe on or wipe off wax or oil or whatever you're using, which is a pain to do, plain socks. I'll just tell you a quick story. When I very first started the wood show circuit, we had this massive cabinet that we had built that all folded up and all the inventory was inside it. And we packed it all up and shipped it to Vancouver. Well, that's the other side of Canada. So it was probably a week to 10 days before we actually got there. We landed at the Victoria show. Not Victoria. Yes, it was Victoria. It was over on the island. Opened up the cabinet, and every piece of metal in there had surface rust on it. Unfortunately, there was a couple of volunteers there, customers that helped me. And we spent the day with those hand blocks scrubbing off the rust. It was everywhere. And I learned my lesson. So I found out about the plain socks. We started using them and never had a problem again, ever. So it's how much are they?
$12, $13.
$12, $13. They come in 4 different sizes: block plain size, smooth plain size, jacks, and joiner. Really easy. Anything else?
What day did you say the thing was later this month?
What date?
Yeah.
August 17th. You can say it out loud, Jake. They'll hear you. August 17th at 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., sorry. And it's here at 275 River Valley Drive in Grand Bay, New Brunswick, in our shop. There's room for 12. There's 12 benches. You got to bring your own plane, and you have to bring your own stones. We have everything here to sell if you want to buy it new. But if you want to try to resurrect your old stuff, make sure it's a really good plane. Old beaters sometimes just are not worth the work. We do have some loaners. If somebody doesn't have a plane and they want to try something out before they buy, or just want to come but don't have the money to spend on tools, we have some loaners. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Anything from Angie?
I haven't seen anything, no.
What's the cost?
Cost is $300 Canadian. That includes your lunch. Great deal at twice the price. And you'll learn how to sharpen. We teach a free hand sharpening that takes you 30 to 40 seconds to do, and you'll master it before the end of the day. You'll actually get it down. And when you learn how to sharpen a plane properly, it's an experience you've never had before, and I can say that confidently. And when people start pulling off these shavings that are less than a thou thickness, they just get all giddy. They can't believe what they're doing. But it's doable. And it's enjoyable. And it's the most efficient tool in the shop. It's the only tool I know of where you can remove a 0.5 of an inch to sneak up to get that perfect fit. And when you're done, meaning you don't have to come in and do anything to the surface. It is finished to a higher quality than any sandpaper could get it. And no dust. Never gone home at night and coughed up one of these. No dust, no danger, no noise. Join us. You'll have a blast.
And AVI Pinsky, he's the gentleman from Israel that got up early to watch
That stayed up all night.
He wants you to do a full unboxing and setup video of the shoulder plane. All we have now is the 3-minute review video on the product page.
Oh, you want me to do on a YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. We're always looking for ideas for YouTube. Did we ever decide on the colors of the next T-shirts?
Red was the most suggested.
I thought so too.
And actually, someone recommended it for a really good red. I guess there's a red day, and it stands for Remember Everyone Deployed.
Oh, really?
So
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, Kevin Smear.
Kevin? Well, I'll take that. That's what we'll do.
Red Fridays, he said.
We will do red. Now, is
Everyone-
that fire engine red? We'll find a good
Probably
red.
cherry red Ferrari.
All right, we'll do that. We'll do that.
And Sue still wants pink.
I can't promise pink, but we will do red. And if you wash it enough times, it'll be pink.
Yeah.
That's right. Anybody else? Any other questions?
No.
Did anybody take Joseph up on his offer?
No, I think they did. Oh yeah, I don't get those.
This is
So-
Megan speaking.
Ryan Rose donated $25, and then we had Larry Christensen donate $25, and then Robert Mikeish bought a shirt.
Thank you, all of you. Appreciate the support. Okay, our next workshop is October 7th, Purple Heart Workshop. Our civilian spots are already filled. In fact, there's a waiting list. We are doing the selection for the vets. Do you know when? Third week. I think it's the third week of August. So if you know anyone, there's still time for them to apply. Go to RobCosman.com on the Purple Heart banner. All the information is in there. They have to have a DD-214 showing they were honorably discharged if they're U.S., if they're Canadian or any other country, as long as they can prove that they were honorably discharged or they're still active duty. And there's some other bits of information in there. But the big thing is being able to write their story, tell their story, put it on paper. It needs to be about a half a page. And as I said, and I'll say it one more time, talk like you're speaking to your therapist. You're not going to hold back and you're not going to exaggerate. It's the only thing that we have to go by when we sit there and try to make that decision. So like triage in a hospital, we're trying to take care of those who are bleeding the most. Okay, is that it?
No.
No?
Paul Morrison wants us to make it Super Dave's Saw Stop Red.
So in honor of Super Dave, and at Paul's request, do we tell him who Paul is? Is Paul still on this side of the continent?
Mm-hmm.
Lieutenant Commander Paul, who Canadian Navy. Paul was here and spent 2 weeks with us. He was great help, awesome help, and hopefully he'll be back. But yeah, Paul's a good guy. Anything else?
No,
That's my fourth. Anything else? All right, we'll try to get this. Do we have any idea when our next one is? We're having to work around Frick's schedule. We're always available. He isn't. He's got this DJ thing. You never did get
It's-
your glasses. We
it's
lost
what
out on a $250 donation because you didn't have your glasses.
Well, maybe he'll honor it next time. But wedding season is over in October. We'll be able to do them a little more.
But we will try to get another one sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Sure.
And if you have suggestions, by all means, forward them. Thanks for being with us. Have a good night.